So when all is said and done, after all the public statements, what now? We caught up with the spokesman for the Secretary General, Stephane Dujarric, who accompanied him throughout the trip, for where the UN goes from here, from 2 states to Gaza, to concerns over Iranian expansion to the north. Stephane Dujarric, thanks very much for being with us.
Pleasure.
So the Secretary General has reiterated his support for a 2-state solution throughout this visit. He also said that there is no plan B to a 2-state solution. Now that you and your team have had your first meetings with the Israeli and Palestinian leadership, what is your impression of where things stand?
This was really a listening tour for the Secretary General. It was his first visit as Secretary General of the United Nations. I think he had very good and substantive talks with Prime Minister Netanyahu, with Prime Minister Abdallah in Ramallah. He also met with civil society and met with people from both sides. I think his main point is we need a credible peace process. There is no second option for a 2-state solution, but this needs to be accompanied by movement on the humanitarian front to give some hope to the Palestinian people. And I think that has just been reinforced by his visit to Gaza just a few hours ago.
So on that note of Gaza, we heard the Secretary General today calling for a lifting of the blockade on Gaza. What specific steps is the UN willing to take to see that happen?
The United Nations is already working with the government of Israel, trying to see how we can best move more goods into Gaza. But obviously, a big part of alleviating the suffering of Gaza is also in the hands of the Palestinian leadership. We need to see a reunited Palestine with Gaza and the West Bank under the principles of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. I think to use the humanitarian suffering for political aims is not the right way to go about it. So we need to see a rapprochement on the Palestinian side as well to help alleviate the pressures on Gaza. The Secretary General today first went to visit a kibbutz just near the Gaza Strip and then went into Gaza. I think his visit to the kibbutz left him very marked as well. He met with residents who had been living under the threats of rockets and tunnels for a long time. He was very moved by their sentiments and their willingness for peace and their search for peace and their willingness and their need for people-to-people contact and for peace to come for both Israelis and Palestinians. I think the situation in the Gaza Strip, as the Secretary General said, is one of the most dire humanitarian situations that we currently have, but one whose solution is not solely humanitarian, it's actually political. And that's, again, why we need this credible peace process with immediate actions on the humanitarian end.
In terms then of the Palestinian leadership, does the UN, does the Secretary General view Hamas as a legitimate leader of Palestinian people, if not in total, in part?
For the United Nations, they are the de facto authority in Gaza. Our interlocutors, our legitimate interlocutors, is the Palestinian Authority for all affairs, for all of Palestine.
So would the Secretary General support a renewed pursuit of Palestinian statehood at the UN if, for example, the U.S.-led process rather stalls or fails?
The issue of statehood, of membership of the United Nations, is not up to the Secretary General. It's up to the Security Council and the member states themselves. I think the focus needs to be on credible face-to-face talks between the parties. There's no getting around that.
So let's move to Israel's north for a minute. We have heard the Israeli government throughout this visit pressing the issue of expansion of Iran in Syria and in Lebanon, including Hezbollah. We know the Secretary General has asked for a boosting of forces, of UNIFIL forces in Lebanon. Have you received approval of that request? And if so, what would increased forces actually look like?
The renewal of the mandate of the UNIFIL is currently under discussion in the Security Council, so we'll have to see and wait and see what they say. I think what is important is that whatever mandate we given, the UNIFIL forces implemented fully. And I think the Secretary General has been very clear in the fact that he wants to see UNIFIL implement its mandate fully and effectively, and that's the message he's given to the Israeli authorities.